Because I know like you do like a lot of engineering. Also, you produce records as well. So what types of work on those particular projects were you able to do?
Yeah, well, I think the idea of like the diverse style of music is comes from my passion for different types of music, and probably came a lot from my dad, like just taking me to all these different types of concerts and stuff, and enjoying music to be a soundtrack of different types of experiences in our life, which I really enjoy. It also makes the creative process really interesting to me because I get to explore these different types of sounds. And as the line between genres has really started to dissipate quite a bit in the past few years, it's been a really valuable thing for me to have these different sort of tools to pull out in production and figure out a way to create a unique sound. So that's why I really enjoy doing that. And I think the reason that it works for me is that my focus is really more on trying to get the idea and the sound out of the artist's head and into Pro Tools, and be able to take their vision and combine it with my understanding of the technical side of things, and then my gut feeling about what's cool and feels right, and then help them paint that sonic picture that they want, that they have the idea in their head. They know how they want the track to feel, and in some cases a basic idea how they want it to sound. Then I can help them take those just thoughts and turn them into a tangible product. So with that being my process, I think that's what allows me to be able to jump between different genres, because I'm not as much focused on like how do we make something sound like this for this specific thing. I'm focused on the artist and their individual sound, and then I just listen to a lot of music. So I'm just always exploring new sounds and and ideas and stuff. So being aware of that gives me that ability, and so in those experiences working with some of those larger artists, I think that that's how I was able to kind of jump into those different roles in in doing that. I think thinking about a story of something, I feel like the experience that I had working with John Legend for the first time was I learned so many things from. At that time, there was a country artist named John Rich and a business partner of his named Charlie Panaccio. Charlie was managing an artist that I was doing some co-writing with, and him and John signed him to a publishing deal. And I was doing some co-writing, some demos and stuff with them, and they heard the stuff that I was doing, they liked it, and around that time, the two of them leased out a studio to run privately for their own projects, and so I got connected with them, and they needed someone to come in and run the studio and engineer sessions. So I was able to come in and basically run the place for them for their own projects that they were working on, and really fortunate to be able to just kind of jump in, and they both liked the way that I worked, and I'm grateful for the opportunity that they gave me, to do that. And in that process, I still wasn't at a point where I was making a living 100% from music. So I was still had my DJ gig, my sort of safety net, gig downtown. But it was becoming more and more common where I had to call them like the day before and say, hey, like somebody just called, I got to roll, can you find somebody to fill in for me? So they were a little bit used to this, but this was the first time that this happened. So I was there. It was about like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. The club is packed, like wall to wall. This place is the most popular club in downtown Nashville that doesn't play country music. So the place is like lined down the street every night, and place is packed. I'm spinning. My phone rings and it's John. And I'm like, there's no reason. I'm like, why is he calling me at like 11 o'clock, And he says, hey, man, what are you up to? I'm like, I'm DJing. It's like so loud I can barely hear him. He's like, hey, I'm down at the studio right now, and me and John Legend just wrote a song, and I need you to come record it. And I said, okay, cool. I'll be there in 10 minutes. And I literally like put down the phone. The music was still playing. I turned around, and I walked out the door. And like as I was walking out the door, I told the manager, I was like, hey, I'm really, really sorry, but like I can't turn this. I got to leave. Yeah, like you can fire me, whatever. I'm terribly sorry, but somebody's got to go up there and change the next song because I got to go. I ran down the street and jumped in my truck and drove up Broadway to Music Row where the studio was at, and walked in, and John Legend is sitting down at the piano. John Rich standing next to the piano. They're just finishing the melody on this song, and they go, hey, we want to cut a track on this. Just can you set up the piano and set up some vocal mics and stuff? And so while I'm listening to them finishing writing the song, just so I can complete it didn't even feel real, but I was like, cool, this is my opportunity. I got to get in and, really do this. So I set up the piano, set up the vocal mics. they finished writing. I had everything ready to go, and then we just started laying down the track. And the really great like thing that I got out of that experience of working with John Legend for the first time was that his ability to be able to just turn on his emotion and connection with a lyric. Now they had like just written this song. It was brand new. And the Lakers were in the playoffs at the time. So the Lakers game was on in the lounge and they were just hanging out watching the game. After I got all the equipment set up, I went in there and was like, hey, I'm ready to roll whenever you guys are. So he goes, all right, cool. Just comes in like super, chill, lays down the piano. So we cut that track and then steps up to the vocal mic. We do this first take, and as I'm listening, just watching him perform, he went from just like chilling out, just watching a game, to turning into like he was singing to a stadium of 50,000 people. Like he was just laser focused on and they had just written these words, but he connected with them at such a deep level. And it was like we were just demoing the song, but it was like we were cutting a record in a song that he had been performing on stage for quite a time, and like was really comfortable with it. And it gave me a lot of insight on like what it means to have that thing. I think that was my one of my first experiences of really seeing that kind of magic happen right away. And then just learning like the craft of being able to put your mindset in that place to be able to give that performance that you need. And also the importance of every time you perform, regardless of whether it's just a demo that maybe no one but some publishers are going to hear, to give it that same energy every single time, because that's what you do and who you are. And so that taught me a lot. And John Rich's work ethic in that way is the same. Like whether we were cutting one of his demos or a commercial record that we were working on, he didn't like speed up the process if it was a demo. We were still focused on capturing the moment, creating the art, getting the sound right, not rushing through it. And it wasn't just something, we'll just lay this down and we'll fix it later. It was like, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And that was a really good learning lesson for me to dive in. And so I started taking that to every opportunity and session that I had after that, and also started taking that knowledge from what I learned of seeing John Legend perform in that way to apply it to other artists that were still trying to find themselves as artists, and really help put them in an environment that would inspire them to perform with that same level of intensity, but also to make sure that they're really in the mindset of that, and they understand how serious, I shouldn't say serious, but how important it is to really embody the lyric of what you're performing, or embody the performance of the part that you're playing if you're a musician. So that's the first thing that came to mind. It was just a really great learning experience on a lot of different ways, and also helped me recognize that I needed to quit DJing at that place, because the only thing that it was doing was keeping me from just being open to to anything that could happen. It wasn't short after that where I finally just had the courage to say, all right, I'm leaving this. I'm not going to have a part-time gig anymore. And a little bit after that, I took out a lease on a studio and that I could barely afford at the end of the year in maybe like 2010. And it was a smaller room. It was a pretty big step, but I think that experience had a lot to do with having the confidence to say, like, you really got to focus on this and be able to perform at the same level that you just saw like John Legend perform at, where you just go into that. You can't have these distractions of this other stuff going on that's keeping you away from that laser focus on what your intention is with your life and with your art. So that was a big turning point for me, I think.